Here we have two of Mayco's new texture products. We have our white Mudcrack and our black Mudcrack, and we're going to go over some tips for use with these glazes. To start out, when you are first opening the jar, you're going to notice that the glaze is somewhat gelatinous. It's kind of a solid glob. So to alleviate that, all you have to do is shake it pretty vigorously, and that will make the glaze a lot more fluid. As you can see here, the glaze is a lot more fluid once I've shaken it. Here we have the black Mudcrack. I've just opened it. As you can see, it's kind of one big gelatinous piece here. So I'm just going to shake it vigorously, and that will make the glaze more fluid. So after a vigorous shaking, I will check the fluidity of the glaze. As you can see here, the glaze is much more fluid. It's running off of your brush and still not watery enough that it's like not catching in here. So now we're going to apply our glaze to our piece here. I'll continue to kind of stir and agitate the Mudcrack while I'm working with it, just to avoid it getting thick. As you can see, it's still pretty fluid. So when I apply my coats of Mudcrack, I'm going to load my brush, pretty heavily loaded here, dip the whole entire brush in the glaze. Kind of let the extra drip off of it, and then I'm just going to apply it to the inside of my piece here. So here we've applied one coat of the white Mudcrack to the inside of this ramekin. If you look here, it's starting to dry immediately actually. It's not very shiny anymore. There's a couple little spots. Once those little spots have dried up, I'm going to go ahead and apply a second coat of Mudcrack. So continuing to stir as I'm applying, I'm going to go ahead and dip into here and apply my second coat. Laying it on pretty heavy, but avoiding any drips that are happening. So as you can see, the second coat does not dry immediately. I'm going to set this down and let it dry for a minute before I go ahead and apply my third coat. So here, as you can see, we've lost our shine, and the glaze is starting to have the cracking occur, because as it continues to dry, the glaze will crack more. So I want to go ahead and get that third coat on while it's semi-dry before it dries out all the way and there's no moisture left in the glaze. So continuing again to stir the Mudcrack glaze, and now I'm going to put my third coat on the white Mudcrack. Again, there's no big drips or anything, pretty even application, but I do want to lay it on pretty thick. Here we have our 3 coats of Mudcrack. Here we have our black Mudcrack glaze with 3 coats that have been applied to it. It's drying here, and as you can see, you're starting to get the cracking effect. That's how you know you're going to get some nice results in the kiln. If you don't see this cracking, once you've applied the glaze, I would recommend applying another coat or 2 of glaze until you do see this cracking. If it doesn't crack before you're putting it in the kiln, you're not going to have the Mudcrack effect once you've fired it into the kiln. And here we have some results. So this one here, the glaze was applied pretty thin, and I did not have any cracking before I put it in the kiln, which resulted in no cracking after I had fired it. And here we have a ramekin that had been fired with the cracking similar to this one. And as this dries, it's going to have more pronounced cracking that occurs, and that's not a problem. That's kind of what you want to happen. Depending on the thickness of your Mudcrack application, you can get variable Mudcrack results. As you can see here, I have both the white Mudcrack, and then here's the black Mudcrack with 1, 2, 3, and 4 coats. And 1, 2, 3, and 4 coats. So the thicker the application, the heavier the cracking is going to be, and the more raised texture that's going to occur with the fired results. Here it's a lot smoother. You can kind of barely even feel any texture at all, but you do get a really subtle mud cracking effect. The application will have an effect on the fired results. And here we have some finished products where we have applied our Mudcracks on top of our new gloss glaze line. Here we have our purple gloss and our blue gloss. And then here we have 2 tumblers. We've done the Mudcracks on top of our red gloss and then on top of the yellow gloss. So you can use the Mudcracks on a variety of clay bodies and even firing temperatures. Here's a sample of our white Mudcrack applied with 3 coats onto a speckled clay body, fired to cone 6 with a glaze combo on top. Here we have white Mudcrack applied with 3 coats onto a dark brown clay body. Here I have swirled white and black Mudcrack on top of iron wash. And there's about 3 coats applied with a thinner brush. You can see the iron wash coming through the cracks, kind of softens the finish. And I have it here on a larger piece. This is just the white Mudcrack applied onto the iron wash, fired to cone 6. And here I have the black Mudcrack with 3 coats applied on top of our weathered blue glaze. As you can see, the cracks get a little bit finer and it smooths out a little bit. There's not a lot of texture feel here. So this is the weathered blue by itself, and here is it with the combo with a black Mudcrack.